Hello and welcome to this new video where we are going to talk about flowers and pollination. The topics that we are going to cover are the parts of a flower, the types of flowers, pollination, and the types of pollination. So let's just dive in. Flowers are the most colorful, bright, and attractive part of plants. Usually, they are very beautiful, but in some plants like grass and paddy, the flowers are small, dull in color, and unattractive. They are the site of reproduction in plants. They produce fruits and seeds. Seeds help in producing new plants. Now let's see what are the parts of a flower. Flowers vary in size, shape, texture, smell, and color. But they all have some common parts which are arranged in 4 whorls or concentric rings. The first part of the flower that we will discuss is the calyx. It is the first or outermost whorl of the flower. It consists of sepals. The sepals are green, leaf-like structures. They are located at the base of the flower. There may be 3, 4, or more in number. All sepals together are called the calyx. Now, what does the calyx do? It protects the flower at the stage of bud and carries out photosynthesis. Now, let's move to the next part of the flower, that is the corolla. It is the second or inner whorl of the flower. It consists of bright and colorful petals. All petals together are called the corolla. And what does the corolla do? The petals protect the reproductive part of a flower. Their bright color attracts insects for pollination. Now let's talk about the next part of the flower, that is the androecium. The androecium forms the third whorl of the flower. Stamens are the individual units of the whorl. The stamens are the male reproductive parts. A stamen contains a thin stalk called filament and a lobed structure called the anther. The anther contains fine yellow powdery substances called pollen grains. And what does the androecium do? The pollen grains inside the anthers contain the male reproductive cells. Now let's look at the next part of the flower called the gynoecium. Now it forms the fourth or the innermost whorl of the flower. It is made up of individual units of carpel or pistil. The pistil is the female reproductive structure of the flower. A pistil has 3 main parts: the stigma, style, and the ovary. Now, stigma is a sticky, knob-like structure located at the tip of the pistil. It is sticky and receives the pollen grains. Ovary is the swollen part at the base of the pistil. Inside the ovary, there are ovules that contain female reproductive cells or gametes. The ovules, after fertilization, develop into seeds. The ovary ripens to become the fruit. Style is a thin stalk that connects stigma and the ovary. The style transfers pollen grains to the ovary. Now, based on the presence of male and female reproductive parts, flowers can be of 2 types. A bisexual flower, a flower that contains both male and female reproductive parts, is called bisexual or a complete flower. The examples are rose, pea, oxalis, sunflower, China rose, etc. Now, a flower in which either the male reproductive part or the female reproductive part is present is called a monosexual or unisexual flower or an incomplete flower. The examples are grass, papaya, mulberry, oak, sweet corn, gourd, etc. Now, the world's largest flower, Rafflesia arnoldi and Amorphophallus titanium, are very stinky and are also called corpse flowers. They attract flies around them that pollinate the plants. Interesting, isn't it? Now, let's talk about pollination. The process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same kind is called pollination. Pollination in plants can be self-pollination or cross-pollination. Now, what is self-pollination? The transfer of pollen grains occurring in the same flower or between the flowers of the same plant is called self-pollination. So, what would be cross-pollination? The transfer of pollen grains between the flowers of the same kind is cross-pollination. The male reproductive cells or the gametes of a flower called pollen grains are located inside the anther. The female reproductive cell or gametes called ovules are enclosed by the ovary. When anthers get matured, they split and scatter the pollen grains. These pollen grains fall on the stigma of the same flower in case of bisexual flower. From stigma, the pollen grains move to the ovary by style. So there are ovules inside the ovary. When pollen grains reach inside the ovary, they unite with the ovules. The union of pollen grains and ovules is the first step in the case of reproduction in plants. In case of a unisexual flower, the pollen grains are carried by the agents of pollination to the stigma of another flower of the same kind. These pollinating agents are wind, water, insects, or other animals.